The film begins at the antenna company seminar at an abandoned church where the new game, Existenz, is introduced. The game's creator, Allegra Geller, is the world's greatest game designer. The seminar leader introduces her as the GamePod goddess, and she describes Existenz as a new game system that uses Metaflesh game pods. Almost everyone in the room volunteers to test the new system. At the door, a game company worker, Ted Pickles, screens Noelle Dichter for recording devices. Noelle has an outdated game pod and is anxious about the demo. The demo uses flesh-like game pods to allow players to interact with the game. As they go into a trance to enter the game, Noelle pulls an odd-looking gun out from inside his game pod and shouts, "Death to the demoness Allegra Geller," then shoots Allegra in the shoulder. Noelle also shoots the seminar leader. He is then shot by security. Ted grabs the gun and takes Allegra away. In the car, Ted gets a call on his pink phone and Allegra grabs his phone and throws it away, saying that it can be used to track them. They stop at a location and Ted uses a pocket knife to dig out the bullet, which is a tooth. They realize the gun is made of flesh and bones and uses teeth as ammo. They stop at a motel. Ted tells Allegra that they have to contact Antenna so they could get help. Allegra ignores him and goes to his back to check if he has a bioport and finds out that he doesn't have one. A bioport is a port plug that is connected to the spine that allows players to play Metaflesh games. Allegra wants to test the game and needs Ted to help her, so they go to a gas station and ask the attendant gas to install an illegal port. He agrees, after recognizing Allegra. After the painful procedure, Allegra connects her pod to Ted, and it short-circuits, locking them out of the game. Gas reappears, holding a shotgun, and explains that he installed a faulty port on Ted so he could destroy Existenz and kill Allegra in order to get the $5 million bounty on her head. Ted shoots Gas in the neck before he can kill Allegra. Allegra and Ted drive to an old ski club, where they find Kiri Vinegar. She tells him that there have been a couple of attempts on her life and needs a safe place to stay. Kiri tells her to stay at one of the guest chalets. She hands the ski boot to Kiri for safekeeping, and then Kiri and Landry proceed to repair the pod. They also removed the faulty port on Ted and installed a new one. Afterwards, Allegra and Ted jack into the game, and Ted's reality changes. He is fascinated by how real the game looks and feels. Ted asks what is the goal of the game they're playing, and Allegra says that they have to play the game to find out why they're playing the game. They meet a game shop owner named Darcy Nader who brings them to the back to talk to them privately. Ted realizes the non-player characters or NPCs react to what they are saying, so they must tell the correct dialogue in order to proceed. Nader gives them micropods, which will give them their mission and new identities. They use them to port in. Ted and Allegra's characters feel the urge to make out as commanded by the game script. While they are making out, the scene suddenly changes, and Ted is at a trout farm, working on a conveyor belt as Larry Ashen, next to Yevgeny Nourish. Yevgeny explains that the trout farm is now used for making game pods. He suggests Ted to try the Chinese restaurant in the forest and order the special. He finds Allegra, but she seems to react like the NPCs as well. They head to the Chinese restaurant and ask the waiter for the special. Ted tells Allegra that he is nervous and manages to pause the game. Back in reality, Ted starts to feel like the real world is fake, and he somehow cannot distinguish reality from the game. They re-enter the game, and their special order arrives. It's gross looking, but Ted's character eats it anyway. Ted is urged to assemble the bones into a gun-shaped weapon, and they realize that it resembles the gun that was used to shoot Allegra in the real world. Ted then jokingly points the gun to Allegra while saying "Death to the demoness Allegra." Ted suddenly feels the urge to kill the waiter. Against his will, he shoots the waiter and kills him. The dog in the restaurant grabs the gun and runs away. As they were escaping through the kitchen, Yevgeny appears and asks them if they like the special that he made for them. They ask him why the waiter had to die, and Yevgeny tells them he was a traitor. Yevgeny leads them to a breeding pool for the creatures and explains that in addition to game pods, they are working on undetectable weapons for a secret agency. The trout farm where Ted and Allegra work is owned by a company called Cortical Systematics, a company that specializes in creating virtual reality game systems, and Yevgeny's organization wants to destroy them and all non-real elements such as pod games. They return to the game shop and speak with the game shop cashier, Hugo Carlaw. Hugo shows them Nader's dead body and tells them that both Nader and Yevgeny work for Cortical Systematics. Yevgeny is a double agent and tricked Ted to kill the waiter, who is actually their contact at the trout farm. Hugo is with the Realist Underground, a radical faction that opposes the use of biotechnology for gaming. He tells them to assassinate Yevgeny. They return to the trout farm and find a diseased game pod left for them. She ports into the pod, but something goes wrong. Ted tries to unport her, but it was stuck, so he cuts her link to the pod, and she begins to bleed out. Yevgeny arrives and burns the pod, which releases deadly spores that infect Metaflesh game pods. Allegra stabs him, and the farm catches on fire. They awake back in the ski lodge and find out that Allegra's pod has caught the disease from the game. She injects the pod with a spore disinfectant, then sees Ted's bioport is infected too. She realizes Kiri installed an infected bioport. She inserts a disinfectant pod into Ted's bioport and says they cannot play for a while. Suddenly the ski lodge is attacked, and the game shop cashier from the game arrives, talking about freedom, and shoots the pod, destroying the only copy of Existenz. Ted realizes they are still in the game. Outside, a battle rages, and the cashier talks about the victory of realism over the game Existenz. As he points his rifle to kill Allegra, Kiri shoots him from behind. Kiri explains that he copied Existenz earlier while repairing her game pod, and tries to recruit Allegra to Cortical Systematics. Allegra sits down and pretends to think about joining them and then shoots Kiri. Ted points out that she's committed murder, but Allegra argues that Kiri is just a game character. Ted tells her that they are not in the game anymore and reveals that he is actually one of the realists, and then tries to kill her. Allegra tells him that she knew that he is one of her assassins when he pointed the gun at her at the Chinese restaurant and triggers the bomb she inserted into Ted's bioport earlier. She celebrates and asks if she's won the game. Allegra and Ted awake back in the abandoned church, wearing blue electronic virtual reality devices along with the other game characters they played with. The group applauds Ted and Allegra, who are actually lovers in the real world. Allegra was only playing a part of a game designer, and Yevgeny is actually the real designer. His assistant, Mirla, thanks everyone for helping them test the game and tells them that they will get a discount on their game called Existenz. Yevgeny tells Merle he is disturbed that the game had an anti-game theme where a game designer is targeted and is seen as a threat to society. He thinks it must have manifested from one of the game players. Ted and Allegra take their dog and approach Yevgeny. They tell him that he ought to be punished for the most effective deforming of reality. Ted and Allegra take out their hidden gun from their dog and shoot Yevgeny and Merle. They then shout death to the demon Yevgeny nourish and death to Existenz. As Ted and Allegra leave, they aim their guns at the person who played the Chinese waiter, who asks if they are still in the game. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new release. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.